Welcome to the Connoisseur Conversations with Lange und Söhne, live from the Alhambra, Berlin. My name is Carl Norton, and I have the honor to host the upcoming 30 minutes where we will be focusing on finishing. No matter how small a component or a movement or a dial might be, each part must comply with rigorous artisanal and aesthetic standards. But how many different types of finishing can there be? Which skills are needed? Where does finishing start and where does it end? And how do watch collectors think about it? This conversation shall try to answer questions like these, and I have the honor to welcome the Director of Product Development from Lange und Söhne, Anthony de Haas, live here in the studio.
Hello, good morning.
Good
For us
morning.
it's morning now, I don't know.
Well, there's people from all over the world watching us.
Okay, hello, good day.
Good evening. Okay, but we have guests connected to video calls. We have the chief advisor to the Fondation de la Haute Horlogerie, Carson Chan from Singapore, and the founder of Monochrome Watches and an expert in haute horlogerie, Frank Gelen, connected to us from the Netherlands. Welcome, gentlemen. It is truly an honor to have you in this remote conversation here.
To see you guys. How are you?
Thanks. Happy to be here.
We're just doing fine. We're finishing with the finishing touches of our conversation. Just before we started, we talked about finishing and how important it is. What would you say? How important is it for a person if they first encounter an Lange und Söhne timepiece to be aware of the finishing on the backside?
How important is it? Oh, this is an interesting question. How important? I think that when they first encounter, they will notice that the front of the watch is very much understated. Mm-hmm. And as soon as they turn around the watch, it's flamboyancy, pure. It's classical watchmaking, and all the very fine finished parts shine to watch you, and all the levels and all the things. So I think that's an interesting point.
Right.
You wear your watch.
Yeah.
Discreet, understated. You wear your watch for your own.
Right.
If you decide, you take it off your wrist and turn it around. And I know even collectors have their eyeglass with a loop with them, and they sit here. And then you have joy of all these parts and all the craftsmanship which is inside. These are pieces of art.
Right.
And for me, that's very interesting, that the front, discreet, understated, and the back is
Sheer
almost
visual.
Exploding in your
Visual pleasure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Mr. Chang, I mean, we dive right into the finishing aspect from Lange und Söhne, but how did you get into watches at first? Was it that you focused on how the movements are finished, or was it a specific watch that you focused on that started the sparkle of collecting? How did that go?
Well, my story is a little bit more unconventional than most people. I actually started with automotive first. So I grew up in California, and I was very much exposed to the car culture. But when I moved back to Asia, I have to really stop the tinkering and the passion with cars. And through a little bit of luck and a little bit of friendships persuasion, I was exposed to watchmaking, and I was able to shift this passion for automotive engineering onto mechanical watches. And you'll be surprised that both of them shares a lot of similarities.
Yeah, actually, I saw a film once with Wilhelm Schmidt, the CEO of Lange und Söhne, and he was looking at a Rolls-Royce engine, and there was some engraving, some finishing on that engine. And I think he said something along the lines of, that can't be done by engineers. They must have had somebody else there in the factory who would actually do that. So that was there as well already. The finishing idea was on the engine, on the movement of the car.
Yes.
Okay, so Mr. Gelen, I mean, the same goes for you. I mean, now you're famous for your blog, obviously, Monochrome Watches, but it has started at some point. And it all started, what, with looking at a movement and marveling at the refinements, or, again, a very unusual route like we just heard from Mr. Chan?
I don't know if it's an unusual route, but for me, it started when I was looking for a nice watch for going on a holiday. It would be a 6-week backpacker holiday with a lot of deep sea diving. And I didn't have a watch that was fit for the job. So I went looking online for information about a watch, and I stumbled across automatic watches, mechanical watches, and quartz watches. And that's when I finally understood there was a difference between these categories. And then the sheer marvel of the mechanics. How can a few gears and pinions and levers and springs altogether indicate the time so precisely? That was my first big hook, and I was fully into it.
Right. And the hook, was it engraved, finished, or anything? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
At that time, I didn't even dare to dream of anything as beautiful as a Lange & Söhne, but right. That soon happened afterwards. It started with a simple citizen or psycho mechanical dive watch. And there was a lot of reading up also into the history, but the finishing followed very quickly after.
Oh, right, okay. So that means nowadays you focus a lot on how the movement is being treated by the engravers or the watchmakers?
Absolutely. I think it's one of the, well, it's of course also a matter of budget. And I think in all budgets, you have a lot of very interesting factors to look at watches. But in the higher segments, finishing is definitely one of the most important factors. And not only just finishing, but also the architecture of a movement. And I think that is something that Lange & Söhne really excels in.
Okay, the architecture as part of the finishing. And I mean, there's one of the novelties here at Watches and Wonders 2021, which has a very intriguing architecture. Obviously, I'm talking about the triple split. So how does this idea of finishing and making something beautiful to look at coincide with the architecture of a movement, especially since you know that there's going to be a glass back, so you can really look at the movement?
I think our movement designers are, and we have a very interesting mix. We have 10 movement designers, and 5 of them have a watchmaker background and learned further to be engineers, and the other 5 are really engineers. And they have, when they started, had a different approach of doing things. But at the moment, they are artists. It's not just engineering. They take as much care for, of course, complete functioning of that complex movement, but also wear and balancing the design. They are designers of a movement, not just, okay, it's not Lego. It's everything has to work, of course.
Right.
But it needs to position live. Just throw in a bunch of blue screws and make something out of German silver doesn't make a very high level, nice movement.
Okay.
And all this stuff we do, the movement doesn't run better, to be honest, by finishing. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's a piece of art.
And also, I became aware of it. I wasn't really aware of it beforehand, but you're actually finishing and engraving the bits and pieces that you can't see, because obviously you can't see every of the 567 bits the triple split has. So why is that? Why do you do finishing techniques on things that we can't see?
Because we think we need to do that.
Okay.
And that is out of the question not to do that. Yeah, if you look for how we need to optimize or I don't know what, and I think if I would say to the people we're gonna stop finishing the parts under the dial, I think we would lose half of the team, because they would quite be upset. It's a part of the thing we do and the thing we live, and that's. Yeah, we do it like that. No question. It's never questions. It's an interesting thing. We do it like that. So
yeah, it takes an outsider to ask that question, I guess.
Yes,
everybody who's watching goes like, oh, how could he ask that question?
They are nuts, you know. They don't need to do that. Why this? No? So it could be cheaper. My Lange watch could be cheaper if they would do
yeah, if you stop engraving my watch.
That's a pity, but it is not. No.
Of course not. But let's zoom out from Glashütte and move all the way to Asia, because Mr. Chang, if the internet is not lying, which it never is, obviously, then you're offering FHS certified watch training courses, and
right.
obviously finishing techniques and getting to know the movement a big part of it. How important is the look inside, the technical and the aesthetic aspect of a movement in Asia?
Well, what Anthony just described was a perfect explanation of the marriage of engineering with artistic finishing. So I think in order for collectors to fully appreciate watches, finishing is absolutely one of the most important bit that they need to have a deep understanding. The watch could be a functional piece. There are many watches on the market that it runs well, it's accurate, but one step beyond that is the finishing of it. As you have also mentioned, there are many pieces that finishing parts that you cannot see it. The reason to do something like this is absolutely for the spirit of fine watchmaking. It would be a very sad thing for the craftsman to put in the effort, years of training to do the finishing and only to pass it on to the consumer, and then the consumer does not recognize it. To me, that's very sad. So for me, this finishing is absolutely one of the most important session that we show during the FHH certification classes.
Oh, okay. And do the people get a chance to try it out themselves? I mean, just let us into some kind of real experience from the workshop. Do they get the tools?
To be very transparent, actually, we use many Lange and Söhne video to show the technique.
Right, okay. Look at Anthony de Hart saying, like, really? Are you training watchmakers
so Anthony,
over there?
Anthony is always on our video.
Oh, really?
You made the yes. He made a video for FHH a few years ago.
All right, okay. So, did you know that you were sort of training people in Asia?
I know that there's a video, and they
Okay.
of course they know. I know that they're using it. It's
Right.
all well. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's quite an honor.
Yeah.
I don't know how the people hold through to. Maybe I should think about a facelift or something like that. But, I don't know. But
Some finishing.
They should look at the finish, not at me.
Right.
So
Okay.
it's quite a cool thing. And you know what's interesting is Mr. John was explaining about training. When I was working in the 90s in Switzerland, part of Renault Papy and so on, you know these were the years the Swiss industry, of the watch industry, were still about to discover the finishing techniques,
right?
Because they got all lost. When I did watchmaking school in the Netherlands in the 80s, we had a teacher and we had theory about finishing techniques. And he started with, yes, and this is used in the past and this and that, and there used to be something called black polish. And we all like, okay, what was that? Yeah, this was a zinc block and you do this and that. Can you show us? No, because he didn't know.
Right.
And to be honest, the first time I discovered it was at Renault Papy. And maybe a small anecdote. A dear friend of mine, Peter Speak, Marin, he was training me because he already worked at Renault Papy when I'm joining, and we did a minute repeater together. And I had to do the little hammers, to do the black polish. And that, for me, it was the black polish. And everybody was like, black polish, be careful. It takes hours and things. I said, okay. So I got the hammer. I was quite excited. And he showed me how to do that. And I started doing it, like he said. And then under the microscope looking, because black polish means with a ring light, light coming from all directions, it needs to be perfectly black. And the single scratch appears like a white hair, for example, like a cat, like a pfft.
Okay.
And I polished the nipples for hours. And finally I was like, yeah, Peter, look at this. And he says, yeah, the polishing is good, but you can throw away the hammer. So why? You polished so much, the beveling was gone. He said, but it doesn't matter, because I gave you, a sorted out piece.
Right.
And,
How motivating.
and each watchmaker has its different tricks,
Right.
handlings, a kind of pressure. It's not just like sitting there and just wiggle around a little bit on the block and the things, and even the material of the zinc block.
Right.
I say zinc, but it's a bit of a different alloy. Mm-hmm. It's also different of each maison.
Right.
And each watchmaker. So there's a lot of secrets. And can you imagine that when the watch crisis was there in the 70s, 60s, 70s, and more industrialization, all these techniques got lost. So it was a task for example, Renault Papier or Lange to find out what kind of techniques were there, and it was a real trial and error. I can tell you, there's a lot of time got lost because it was nothing left. It was not written in the books.
Right, you had to relearn it, everybody, basically. Mr. Geelen, did you ever try to finish a part or as part of a workshop or anything? Ever tried it?
I tried it, and I know that I wouldn't be a good watchmaker.
Oh, okay. Then we'll move on to the next topic, which is, well, obviously, obviously you're very good at reviewing watches and bringing them close to the public.
You know, what's so funny? There are now this is to prove that there are also Dutch people who can give very short answers.
Yeah, but I haven't asked the second question yet. Because obviously, when you work with monochrome, you have lots of watches that you review and you go really into detail, and it's really lovely work. So did you notice in the feedbacks or the comments that you get for the reviews and for all the contributions that people appreciate the finishing in a different way in, let's say, Europe compared to Asia?
I wouldn't say so. I think what I notice is that people in general do appreciate the finishing when it's done in a very nice way, in an elegant way, and also in the entire construction of the movements, that it makes sense, so that it's not finishing just for the finishing, but it has to be, you know, the entire ensemble of parts has to work together. And I think when that really comes together in a very nice way, it is appreciated on every continent in the same way.
Okay, we actually have comments coming in as well via the website, and one actually says a watch needs to be 100% finished at the highest level, so they absolutely agree with you. And there's a question tied to that: are components at A. Lange & Söhne sourced and finished externally? Is that the case, or do you all do that in-house?
The finishing we do in-house. We have a dedicated. And now it's getting a bit confusing, a Finnish department. That doesn't mean that there's a department where only people from Finland are working. Although I know that there are some excellent Finnish watchmakers
from
Finland.
Some comments about that, I guess.
I don't know, but we had really with the tour a question.
Right.
Because it's mounted Finnish Abteilung.
Okay.
And they're like, Finnish? Do you have Finnish people here? We have 2 watchmakers from Finland, but that is not the case with the finishing department. They are excellent watchmakers from Finland, good friends. But did you know, we are talking about finishing and things, did you know why watchmakers started doing finishing in the past? Because in the past, only the complicated watches were mostly finished.
Okay. I do, because you told me. But maybe the 2 gentlemen, do you share the story? Did Anthony de Haas already share it with you, or no idea? Okay, well, fire away.
I do know, but.
Oh, you do know? Okay, so that's good.
Yeah, I had a chat with Frank this morning. No. The perlage, for example, the pocket watches, for example, high complicated pocket watches.
Right.
They were not only double assembled, but maybe 100 times. But it's all fine adjustment, adjusting the spring, assembling, trying functions, take it out. If you leave it like rough material or blasted or something like that, grained, you see all the marks of the watchmaking at work. So they said, let's making shiny perlage, so you don't see so much the things. Okay. And of course, then they started also to celebrate it, of course, and then became a bit of a game who made the nice finishes. But only in the pocket watches, in the complicated pocket watches was used also at the time German non-treated German silver. So that's where it comes from. It helps us a little bit, but don't tell them.
No, we're not going to.
It's important. Well, sometimes you get, for example, the surface underneath the balance wheel.
Right.
We do not give it a perlage. And I had some comments that, they're saving money. They just blasted it.
Right.
But in fact, it's not. The matte surface underneath that shiny balance wheel, let come out the balance wheel, the heart of the movement, way more. We do that on purpose.
Okay.
And it's way more delicate for the watchmaker. He takes the balance cock and the balance wheel is jingling underneath by the hairspring, and he's positioning it, and he is not allowed to touch with the pinion of the balance staff, the pivot of the balance staff, to touch that grained surface, because then he can start all over again.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's, again, aesthetically.
Right, so you make it even more difficult for yourself by choosing that route.
But of course.
Yes, of course. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? And actually, there is the Finnish question that came in. And let's see, I have to read it first. How long does it take to finish, not from Finland, a triple split movement? Does it have hours? Can you
yeah,
put
but
an hour?
that is so difficult to say.
Right.
But okay, so the parts go in what we call fabrication.
Right.
We use machines to fabricate them internally. And then the pieces come out rough. They are still partly fixed in plates.
Right.
And there are some bevels, so you need to take them away, the burrs. So that's done already by hand. You don't see the result. And then all the parts come in the finished department from Germany. And there the parts are finished. Then they go in boxes, and the toolkit, the parts kit comes to the watchmaker. At that moment, the watch is, or the movement parts is finished for 90%.
Right.
The other 10% is done by the watchmaker itself, because he's working with it, and it's very difficult to say what the total amount is. Of course, I can play the big manager and say, it takes more than 18 months from the fabrication of the parts until the finalizing of the watch. So, but if you take a little spring with some nice bevels on the fixing foot of the spring, and breaking around, I think he spends, or she spends about half an hour for that little spring, and she takes the next spring, something like that. It's difficult because one time it's in half an hour, and sometimes maybe 20 minutes. That is the difficulty. It's no. As in a manufactory, that's the difficult thing to measure, because it's handcraftsmanship. If the guy has a good day, he's quick, and he has headache, he's a little bit less fast. But it doesn't matter. The result needs to be. Another challenge is we have 60 people in our finishing department, 60 different individuals, and each individual has a different approach of a 45 beveling angle. Slightly, that's, and the task is to get it all more or less the same. So there is some difference, but to reduce the difference, otherwise not everyone can do his own interpretation of a triple split. You know, you have 100 different finished triple split. That's not the idea, too. But there is some marginal differences. But that is the interesting thing. That is what it makes unique.
Right, and also that not two watches are alike, but they're almost the same. Okay.
Absolutely.
So you already mentioned a few finishing techniques. I just wondered whether our guests that are dialed in have any favorites. Mr. Geeren, is there anything that you say that's my favorite finishing technique, or is that just a stupid question because they're not comparable?
It's difficult to compare it indeed, but I think, again, coming back to the entire architecture or design of the movement, how the different finishings and architecture work together. For instance, if you look at many of the Lange chronographs, it looks like a cityscape from above, and you can dive into it. You can see all kinds of finishings, and how that works together is probably the best example of how good it can get. If you just see one plate that has a beautiful Côte de Genève or Glashütte Ibbing, that looks very beautiful, and it can be done in a very beautiful way, but I couldn't choose between one another. I think the entire composition of the different finishing makes what it is celebrated as something extremely beautiful.
Yeah, it's how they interact, the different techniques, I guess. How many do you use at Lange & Söhne?
How many different techniques?
Do you have to take count of them?
How long does this conversation go?
It's just a figure.
Yeah, but I need some time to count it.
Okay.
Now, I can't tell you a number, but you have graining, straight graining. I think it will be around, 20 different techniques just out of the sleeve. Eh?
Right, okay, so roughly. I mean,
Yes,
nobody's
yeah,
going to come back to you and say, but I do 21. So it's
my
about
God,
20, because there's one question that came over the internet. How many years does it take a watchmaker to handle the techniques to finish a Lange movement? If it's that many, do they come trained, or is that part of your internal training?
It's a part of our internal training, and you must differentiate. You have the watchmaker who has his watchmaking finishing technique, like black polishing is made by a watchmaker,
Right.
Because that's the final step. But we have, of course, the people in that department, in that finish department.
Right.
There's no school for finishing techniques,
Right.
So we train them internally,
Okay.
and we have people. Luckily, we are not far from Meissen, which is the famous porcelain manufacturer, and we had some people who used to work over there. So they had already skills and feels in the Fingerspitzengefühl, the German word. So really the sensitivity to do things like that, and it takes a while. And for a watchmaker, it's quite tough to do a proper finishing, and not only the black polishing, but everybody's looking like black polishing, but even a relatively simple thing to the upper surface of the gold chaton is also done by the watchmaker, because he is the one, or she, is the one who is assembling it. And then polishing. To polish gold is quite tricky because it's quite soft, especially the gold ring we use for the gold chaton is quite weak. And that's the weaker, the tougher. You see everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can polish it away quite quickly, as you relayed earlier.
Yeah, and you can't, if you polish it away, your gold chaton is too low.
Right.
And it's not allowed to let them go underneath the gear train bridge, because then it looks awful. So you take a new.
Right.
But if you take a new gold chaton, you need to adjust the gear train again, because you need to insert the ruby, and the whole thing starts again. So they are very careful with that.
So it's another German word, Handwerkskunst. It's really fine art.
It is.
It's not only technique, but it's also an art.
No robots, human.
No robots, only humans. Mr. Chang, I found a New York Times interview where you had two watches from A. Lange & Söhne, a vintage one and a modern one, and you compared them. When you look at, in your mind's eye now, when you look at the two watches and the movements and how they were finished, did you see any difference, or did they just follow the tradition of where it once was?
Well, Carl, I'm glad you asked this question. I had, in that interview, I had an 1892 pocket watch and also one from 2004.
Right.
The beauty of a Lange & Söhne is that it's one of the very few brands that is taking its heritage from 100 years old to now, where they are still carrying the same tradition. We can still see the engineering aspect of the three-quarter plate movement from the ones from the 1800 and the one that I have from the 2000s. This is, to me, is the spirit, is the essence of Lange & Söhne.
I see. So let me extend that question to Mr. Gehren. Obviously, you don't, at least I didn't find any New York Times interview from you, so I apologize if I overlooked it. But obviously, you've been asked a lot of questions in your watch enthusiast life. When you look at A. Lange & Söhne timepiece, is it the combination of everything? Like we started in the beginning, and Anthony de Haas said, well, it's very understated from the outside, and then you look at it from the backside, and then obviously it's a visual feast. Is it all in all, does it have to be the two of them? Can't you have a totally flourish finishing on the dial as well? Or is it this understatement plus the refined movement finishing that makes for a great A. Lange & Söhne timepiece?
Well, for me, it would be the latter, indeed. I prefer very discreet dial sides and a more exorbitant backside. When you see the movement finishing, I like the idea that it is kind of discreet, that it is for yourself, for the connoisseurs, or for people who are in the know, who spot a watch on your wrist and know that there's much more into it, and not just a very pretty dial that is beautifully finished, honestly, to the highest level. But then to know that when you turn it over, that there's so much more, and you don't have to show it off all the time. Sometimes it's good to keep it a bit for yourself.
To keep it for yourself. Okay. Now, what I don't want you to keep for yourselves is when you look at the three novelties that have been presented here at Watches and Wonders, did you instantly have a favorite based on the judgment that you have about Lange und Söhne? Let's start with Mr. Chang.
Definitely triple split.
Okay, that's how easy it is. He just ordered one. Just kidding. Okay, and can you give us a quick reason why that stands out in your eyes?
To me, the functionality of a watch today it's irrelevant. Really, we have an iPhone, we have a lot of devices that tells you time. The reason to have a very complication such as this triple split is to demonstrate the house's the ability, is the way that they can manufacture and engineer such a piece. Now, don't forget, the double split existed almost over 10 years ago, but adding the triple split, they were able to maintain almost the same dimension, which to me is just an engineering fascination. It's a blend of engineering ability and the artistic way of finishing a movement. This is regardless if you are a gearhead or you are an art lover, this is a watch for you.
Okay, let's see how Mr. Geeren reacts to that. Same favorite or different one?
Absolutely the same. I can totally agree with Carsten here.
Okay, so I spare you picking because they're all yours, so it's very hard to say for you.
They're not mine, they're ours.
Okay.
We are a family with that baby. No?
Yes.
It's not mine, but it's yeah. But I must say I'm very proud of the team. Personally, I didn't expect when we had the idea to start triple split that we at least could stay on the same proportions and also almost doubling the power reserve.
Right.
And integrating that other function. Yeah, that's great, and that's cool. That's a big compliment to my team. They manage to develop themselves over the years. We keep on learning from the things we did before, and give it a new interpretation. In fact, this is the same with the Lange 1 perpetual calendar. It is not just the Lange 1 tourbillon perpetual calendar without a tourbillon, because we do not think like that. Mm-hmm. It would, like you said before, almost it would be too easy. It's not like that, but it's like no, that wouldn't be good enough. And it would not fair towards some people, because take it away and then it's not technically not so easy like it sounds.
Right.
It's complicated and a lot of leverages and parts are working harmoniously together.
Okay.
And if you intervene by just changing the day and night indication and integrate it in the moon phase, you have to intervene in a very complex mechanism, this time hidden under the dial, but that's a danger. By creating one solution, you can create 17 other problems. Right. That is a challenge.
So that goes for the movement as well as for the dial. It's just when do you stop saying not good enough? That's the point that you want to reach.
Yes, and sometimes I have to be devil's advocate. Because our people say, yeah, but I have another idea. I say, you need to stop and get the final point of, guys, this is the point of no return.
Right.
And the other genius ideas, we keep that for other ideas.
Okay. So we had a lot of play on words with finishing and finish. And I have to add one, I'm sorry, because we have to finish the show. And here it means that our 30 minutes are way gone. I think we're in minute 35. So we really took our time here, which is great. It's great to see people are reacting on the platform. It's great to have you gentlemen dialed in and share your passion about finishing and the whole philosophy of Lange. And it's, of course, a great pleasure to have you here each and every time and share your stories, your anecdotes, and your knowledge.
I think we got to know each other the last couple of days.
Well, I certainly learned a lot. And today I learned a lot about finishing. So I say thank you very much, Anthony de Haas, and to Mr. Chan and Mr. Geeren. Thank you very much for being our guests in this remote conversation.
Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, Thank you to you as well for watching, for typing in the questions. I hope you as well learned a thing or two, or enjoyed at least a thing or two about